You have your lesson outline for today.
Teil on siis see õppetunni siis ülevaade paberil olemas.
And as we get started, I'll just make mention that these lessons are available for later.
Enne algust ma siis tahan näida, et need samased õpped on olemas üleval
On YouTube and Facebook.
Ja Facebookis.
And then I mentioned this last week. If you want to look at any of the references in your notes later, then this is a great resource that's free. There's a table of contents where you can find all of the books that are referenced. Okay, now last week we didn't quite have enough time to cover this very amazing story of Joseph. Now Joseph is one of the major characters of the Old Testament. And his life is symbolic also of things that are going to happen later on in the New Testament. So I'll just give you a short version of his life story, and then we'll go into this next lesson for today. If you don't have and you'd like a copy of the lesson plan for last week, just raise your hand and Sander has it over here. But we spoke about Abraham and Isaac and now Jacob or Israel. And this is the time in history when this promise that he has received, and the text speaks about God telling him that his descendants would be like the sand of the seashore, or the stars of heaven. And his name meant father, but he had no children. He was more than 90 years old. But after he had this miracle son of Isaac, Isaac had Jacob. And then Jacob had 12 sons. And this is when this promise begins to happen. Not even in Abraham's lifetime. And that's why in the last lesson we spoke about how Abraham is called the father of the faithful. The faithful. Because he believed this promise, even though he never saw the great fulfillment of it. And this was counted for righteousness to him. So he had these 12 sons. Here Joseph also had 2 sons. But these 12 sons, they were not the best of friends all the time. If you have sons of your own, or if you are from a family with more than one child, then you can understand that sometimes there's friction. But this was extreme, because his father, Joseph's father, his mother rather, died right after his younger brother was born. And Joseph was the favorite of his father. And his father gave him this coat of many colors. Now this was not something for work. This was something that would be worn by the boss of the work. And his older brothers didn't like it. And not only that, but he was a bit maybe arrogant. He would tell to his brothers these dreams that he had, where he was the one that was the prominent. And his brothers were serving him. And his brothers did not appreciate these dreams. And so they, one day, they put him in a pit. And some of them were wanting to kill him. But one of the brothers stopped them and said, you know what, here comes some Ishmaelites, this other tribe of people.
Aga üks vendadest ütles, et siin tuleb mingi
It's a
ismailiitide karavan.
Trade caravan.
Ja kaubavahetus
And
karavan.
let's sell him to them as a
Ja
slave,
müüme ta nende orjaks.
and then we'll be finished with him.
Ja saame temast lahti.
But we won't take his life.
Aga me ei võta temalt tema elu.
So they did that, and he was sold as a slave
Ja ta
to Egypt.
müüdi Egiptusesse orjaks.
Now, he went from being the favorite son
Nüüd ta läks olemast lemmikpojast
to being a slave taken away to a foreign country.
olema orjaks, kes viiakse võõrasse riiki.
Well, he served his master in that foreign land, and it was Egypt.
Seal võõral maal Egiptuses ta siis teenis oma
And he did such a good job that his master put everything of his whole household into his hands.
sedavõrd head tööd, et ta isand usaldas kõik oma majapidamise tema hoolde.
And the text says
Ja
that
tekst ütleb,
there was nothing in the whole house
et ei olnud
or the
midagi
business of the house
selle majas või selle tegemistes,
that the master of the house knew anything about except for the food that he ate at his own table.
et sellest ei olnud maja isandal erilist aimu, välja arvatud see, mida ta
He
sõi.
trusted Joseph so much
Usaldas
that
Joosepit
he gave him
sedavõrd,
all the responsibility.
et kõik selle jättis ta tema
And
hooleks.
he was a prominent man in the country.
Ja ta oli suhtuseks prominentseks inimeseks.
But with the passage of time, and I'll just tell the highlights of the
Ülevaatlikult rääkides aja möödudes.
The master's wife wanted Joseph for her own.
Isanda Joosep tahtis Joosepit endale.
But he was a nobleman, and he said, no, I will not do this. This is not right.
Aga ta oli selle jäi kindlaks öeldes, et see ei ole õige, ma nii ei tee.
And one day when he was in the house by himself, taking care of business,
seal majas siis üksinda tegemas oma asju.
she tried to get him to come and be with her.
Üritas ta siis see naine teda uuesti haarata.
And he left his outer coat
Aga Joosep
and
siis
ran away from her.
eemaldus niimoodi, et ta ülekuum jäi sinna maha.
And when the master of the house came back,
Kui see maja isand tagasi tuli,
she didn't want to be ashamed, and so she said, he tried to force himself on me. And look, here's his coat. It's the evidence.
siis see naine ütles, et Joosep üritas teda haarata kinni ja põgenes, kui ta ei saanud. Ja
So he went from being the favorite son to being a slave, and then he became the main slave
et ta siis
of his master's house.
oli lemmikpojast orjaks, tõusis natukene, olles nii-öelda ülemuri,
And then he went to prison.
siis läks ta vangi.
It was the worst of his life.
See oli siis tema elu kõige madalam
And he
seis.
didn't just stay there for a week.
Ja ta ei olnud seal
It
kõigest
was
nädal
quite a
aega.
long
See oli
time.
üsna pikk aeg.
And so here he is in the prison.
Seal ta siis on
But
vangis,
he was a faithful prisoner.
aga ta oli ustav vang.
And he served the warden of the prison
Ja ta seda vangiülemat teenis.
to the point that he won the warden's trust.
Hetkeni, kus ta võitis selle vangiülema
And the same
usalduse,
thing happened.
juhtub uuesti
The
sama.
text says that there was, the warden gave him all the responsibility for all the other prisoners and all the details of the prison life.
Et vangiülem siis usaldas tema kätte kõik vanglasisesed toimetused, asjad.
And it says that everything was in his hands in
Ja
the
kõik
prison.
seal oli vanglas tema käes.
And he was totally trusted.
Ja ta oli usaldatud.
And one day, the Pharaoh, the king of the land,
Vaaro selle piirkonna siis kuningas
threw two of his servants into the prison.
lasi kaks oma teenijat vangist.
And it was the same prison
See oli sama vangla,
because his master had been one of the prominent men of the land.
kuna tema selle Joosepi endine isand oli olnud üks prominentsemaid
And the
isikuid.
two men had dreams that troubled them.
Ja nendel kahel uuel inimesel, kes nüüd vangi toodi, nendel oli unenägu,
Well, Joseph had this experience with dreams in his past.
mis neid ei lasknud rahus olla ja Joosepil oli kogemus unenägudega.
And he asked them, tell me the dream.
Ja nad palusid talle, et nad seletaks.
And I won't tell you all the details. You can read the text if you'd like. But basically, one of the dreams, he gave the interpretation as he felt God had given to him.
Ja üks nendest unenägudest ta siis seletas niimoodi, nagu ta uskus, et Jumal selle
He said, after this many days, you are going to be lifted up and return to your place, serving Pharaoh as his butler,
et
pouring wine for the king.
teatud päevade möödudes taastab Vaaro sinu ametikoha ja sa teenid
And the other man after this many days, you are going to be lifted up, your head is going to be removed from you.
Ja selle teise inimesugune puhul ta ütles, et teatud päevade möödudes sind puuaks üles.
And that's exactly what happened.
Ja mõlemal puhul juhtus täpselt nii.
And he said, remember me, to the one that he said is going to be restored to Pharaoh. Remember me in the palace.
Too teenija, kelle ametikoht taastati, temale ütles Joosep, et mäleta mind.
But he forgot. He was just happy to have his life back.
Õnnelik, et ta sai elu tagasi.
And years passed.
Ja aastaid möödus.
And then Pharaoh had a dream.
Ja Vaarol oli nüüd.
And all of the astrologers and magicians could not interpret this dream.
Kõik astroloogid ja muud sarnased tegelased ei suutnud seda tõlgendada.
And he was so troubled by it.
Ja teda see niivõrd häiris.
And one day the butler remembered.
Ühel päeval see joogikalla ja see teenija temale tuleb meelde.
What I experienced. So he told the king.
Ja ta ütleb siis kuningale seda.
Now I've said this to some people before.
Ma olen seda enne rääkinud.
But can you imagine?
Aga kujutage ette.
Here's the man that you serve, and he's put you in prison, and you could have died.
Siin on inimene, kes teenis ja ta siin pandi vangi ja.
Now you're restored, and you don't want to say anything about that unpleasant part of history.
Nüüd sa võib-olla ei taha sellest midagi enam rääkida.
Because maybe he will say, hey, that's right, you know what, go back to prison.
Võib-olla sellel kuningal
I don't want to remind the Pharaoh, but he did.
Et ta oli vanglas, aga ta ikkagi
He said, there's a man in the prison.
Vanglas on üks mees.
When you were mad with me.
Kui sa oli minu peal vahane.
And he told me my dream.
Ja ta seletas mulle minu unenäo.
And so Pharaoh sent for Joseph.
Niisiis kutsub Vaaro Joosep enda
juurde. And can you imagine the moment?
Ja nüüd kujutage seda pilti ette.
He was a slave, then he was a prisoner, and now the highest man in the whole land is calling for him.
Ja nüüd selle piirkonna kõige suurem
and it's urgent. And so they change his clothes, they shave his face, and they bring him before Pharaoh. And here he stands before the most powerful man in the world at that time. And he interprets the dream. And you can read the details later in the text if you like. And he says, after this many years, there's going to be actually during these years, there's going to be extra crops. It's going to be big harvests. And then after that many years, there are going to be this many years of famine. And the food is going to not come in. The harvests are going to be very bad. And he not only interpreted the dream, but he gave his advice. And he told the Pharaoh, there's a God in heaven that can interpret dreams. So let me actually advance some of these so you can see all of the text on the slide. So he interprets the dream, and here's the reference if you'd like to look at it. And so he says, here's my advice. Let Pharaoh take extra food from all of the land during these first years of big harvests and store it. And then during the years where there's not enough harvest, let Pharaoh have the food left to feed Egypt and also to sell to the other lands. And that's exactly what Pharaoh did. In fact, Pharaoh was so impressed with this young man that came from nowhere that he made him the prime minister. And he put his ring on his finger. And he said, whatever he says, except for matters about the throne, everything is in his hands. So it happened 3 times. And now he is the most powerful man in the known world at that time under the Pharaoh. It's so dramatic. If you read the whole story, I highly recommend it. It's a very enjoyable reading. And Then the story of his brothers. Now his brothers had sold him as a slave.
Tema vennad olid teda orjaks müünud.
But they went through these years and came to the famine years and ran out of food.
Aga nad jõuavad ise ka sinna nälja-aastatesse ja neil saab toitu otsa.
And their father, Jacob or Israel, said, I heard that there is food in Egypt, so go and buy food. Why should we die and starve?
Ja isa Jakob ütleb, et ma olen kuulnud, et Egiptuses on vilja, et minge nüüd ostke, et me ei sureks nälga.
So this is a whole story in itself. I'll just give you the short version.
See on omaette lugu selles suures loos.
So they go to Egypt.
Nii nad siis lähevad Egiptusesse.
They get food from Joseph and he recognizes them.
Nad lähevad Joosepi juurde seda toitu ostma ja Joosep tunneb nad ära.
But they don't recognize him, of
Aga
course.
tema vennad ei tunne
Here's the
Joosepit
prime
ära.
minister.
Ja siin on
In
see
fact, they bow before him, just like his dream said.
Nad tema ees kummarduvad hoopis just nii, nagu tema unenägu oli seda ette näinud.
He had this dream when he was a young man. They hated him for it.
Noorena oli ta seda unenägu näinud.
But exactly like he had dreamed, it happened. They bowed before him. And he sent them back to their land with lots of food. But he said, I think you're spies and you have to prove that you're not spies by bringing your youngest brother back to me.
Aga ta ütleb neile, et te olete salapõõlad või spioonid, et te peate tõestama, et ei ole ja tooge oma noori vend endaga kaasa.
And the brothers were very afraid because they knew that their father was already very upset when he thought that Joseph had died, his favorite son.
Ja need vennad, nad olid kartlikud selle osas, sest nad teadsid, et nende isa oli juba niigi halvasti ennast tundmas, kui nad arvasid, et Joosep oli surnud.
And they said, if we demand for the youngest son to come, our father will just die of grief.
Nad siis vastavad talle, et kui me oma noorema venna ka toome, siis meie isa ilmselt sureb masendusse.
And so they went back.
Ja nad lähevad tagasi siis.
And then they ran out of food again.
Ja saab neil uuesti toit otsa.
And the father did not want to send Benjamin.
Ja see isa ei taha Benjamini koos saata, aga ta ikkagi nõustub.
And they came back.
Nii nad siis tulevad tagasi.
And they saw Joseph again.
Ja nad näevad uuesti Joosepit.
Just to make a long story short.
Ja pikk lugu lühikeseks teha.
They feared for their lives because it appeared that they had stolen something from his house.
Nad kartsid oma elude pärast, sest seal oli olukord, kus näis, et nad oleksid miski vastanud. Ja nad uuesti kummarduvad.
And they pleaded with him, do not take our youngest son because it will kill our father with grief.
Ja anuvad, et nad ei võtaks kinni nende kõige nooremaks.
And then he heard them saying to one another in the Hebrew language,
ja siis omavahel nad hakkavad heebrea keeles rääkima.
This evil has come to us because of what we did to Joseph.
See kurjus on meie peale tulnud, kuna selle pärast, mis me tegime Joosepile.
And he gets so emotional, this great prime minister of Egypt.
Joosepit, seda suurt peaministrit.
He runs to the other room where no one can hear and he weeps.
Sedavõrd see torkab talle südamesse.
He washes his face and he comes back.
Eemale kõrvaltuppa, kus ta nutab mõnda aega, aga peseb oma näo ja tuleb tagasi.
You should read the story. In the end, he reveals himself to his brothers.
Ja lõpus ta annab siis teada, kes ta tegelikult on.
And they're so shocked and afraid.
Üle ja kartlikud selle üle.
And they think he's going to kill us. This is the boy that we threw in a pit and sold as a slave, and now he's the master of the world almost.
See on see inimene, kelle me viskasime auku ja müüsime orjaks ja kes me müüdsime.
But Joseph says, I forgive you.
Aga Joosep ütleb teile nendele, et ma andestan.
What you meant for evil,
ja see, mis te kurjana mõtlesite,
God meant for good.
Selle tegi Jumal heaks.
And there's this emotional moment where he hugs all of them and they weep together.
Emotsionaalne moment, kus nad kalistavad üksteist ja on pisarad.
And then I'm spending too much time, but the father Israel comes and he meets the Pharaoh.
Ja nende isa Israel tuleb ja kohtub Faarooga.
And the text says he blesses Pharaoh.
Ja ta õnnistab Faaroo, nagu tekstis on
kirjas. And Pharaoh says, how old are you?
Ja Faaroo küsib, kui vana ta on.
And he's very old.
Ja ta on väga vana.
And Pharaoh is impressed by him. And he says to Joseph, take the best land for your family.
Faaroo ütleb, et võta Egiptusest parim maakond endale.
And everything in the land is yours, but take the best of it.
Et kõik, mis on siin maal, on sinu, aga
and so they settle in this land.
Nii nad siis asuvad elama sinna.
But as time goes on,
aja möödudes,
and Joseph dies, and the Pharaoh dies,
Faaroo on surnud ja Joosep sureb,
it says that there arose another Pharaoh that did not know Joseph.
Et kirjas on, et tõuseb uus Vaaro, kes ei ole, siis kes ei tea Joosefi kohta midagi.
And the text says that the people are blessed by God and they're growing, they're having big families, and this small family, well, not so small family, is growing huge.
Ja selleks ajaks see perekond, kes sinna elama asus, on nüüd väga suureks rahvaks kasvanud.
And the Egyptians become afraid that they are going to be overwhelmed by the
Ja
Israelites.
egiptlased kardavad, et Iisraeli lapsed saavad nendest ühel hetkel võimust.
So they said, let's put them to work and keep control over them.
Et paneme nad tööle ja hoiame neid kontrolli all.
And so in the invitation for this history course, you saw the pyramid, or rather the Sphinx from Egypt.
Ja sellel kutsel, mida te võib-olla nägite, seal on Sphinxi pilt olemas.
And many people wonder if these slaves were the ones that built these huge monuments that are so famous today.
Paljud inimesed mõtlevad, kas need on ehk need orjad, kes need kõik ehitasid.
And they were slaves in Egypt for a very long time.
Nad olid Egiptuses orjadena üsna pikka aega.
And now we begin the next lesson.
Ja siit algab järgmine õppetükk.
And during this very dark time of suffering, actually,
sellel üsna tumedal ajal, kus on palju kannatusi.
after the idea of these patriarchs, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, having children as many as the stars of heaven, it actually begins to come to pass.
Ja nüüd see tõotus, mis Abraham oli saanud, et tema pojad saavad olema meretiiva arvulised, et see hakkab nüüd ilmet võtma.
And Israel becomes a nation.
Ja Iisraelist saab rahvas.
But during this very difficult time,
Aga sellel keerulisel ajal
it talks about how God sends a deliverer.
on kirjas, kuidas Jumal saadab pääste.
This idea of the deliverer is huge in Hebrew thought.
See idee päästjast või vabastajast on üsna suur.
Ever since Adam and Eve,
Aadamast ja Eevast
there
alates
has been this prophecy
on olnud see
about
profeteerimine
one who would come to deliver.
sellest, kes tuleb, et vabastada.
And every generation you see it in a different way.
Ja igas põlvkonnas on seda ühel või teisel viisil näha.
And in a sense, Joseph is a symbol of Jesus in the New Testament.
Ja mõningas mõttes
But also-
Joosep sümboliseerib ka Jeesust Vanas Testamendis.
But also Moses
Aga samuti ka Mooses
is a symbol.
on sümbool
So
selle
look in your notes, it says the birth of Moses.
Vaadake märkmetest Mooses sünd.
The people were becoming so many,
Inimeste arvukus
they were
kasvab
already
sedavõrd suureks.
slaves,
Nad on juba
but they
orjadena,
still kept growing.
aga endiselt nende arvukus
And
suureneb.
scholars estimate that there were at least 3 million of them by the time Moses came back.
Õpetlaste hinnangul selleks ajaks, kui Mooses naasis, on nende arvukus umbes
And-
3 miljonit.
And his mother had a child,
Tema emal oli laps
and during the same time,
ja sellel samal ajal
the Pharaoh had sent out an order and said, all of the male children that are being born, let them be put to death to keep the population down.
sellel hetkel annab Vaaro käsu, et hukata kõik vastsündinud poisid, et
Throw them into the Nile River,
hoida seda
to
juurdekasvu,
the crocodiles,
piirutada seda
let them
juurdekasvu.
be drowned. And so she did not want her son to be destroyed. And
Siis tema ei tahtnud, et tema poega hukatakse.
so she put him in a basket,
Nii ta siis paneb ta korvi,
and she painted the basket with pitch so that it would be waterproof.
siis maapidiga ta võõpab selle korvi üles,
And-
peaks vett kinni
Put it out on the Nile River,
ja asetab selle siis Niiluse jõkke,
near the palace apparently.
siis palee lähedale.
And her daughter stayed nearby watching.
Ja selle ema tütar siis jäi lähedale jälgima.
And here came the daughter of Pharaoh
Ja sealt tuli Vaaro tütar,
to maybe bathe or swim or something.
kas siis ujuma või midagi taolist.
And she saw, or one of her servants saw this basket, and she looked inside, and a baby was inside.
Üks tema teenijatest siis märkab seda korvi, vaatab sisse ja näeb seda last,
And he was crying, and it touched her heart.
kes oli nutmas ja see puudutab täpselt tema südant.
Maybe she was already a mother, or maybe she wanted to have children.
Võib-olla ta juba oli ema, võib-olla ta lihtsalt tahtis
And
lapsi.
she decided, I'm going to rescue this child. She realized this is a Hebrew child.
Ta saab aru, et see on heebrea laps, aga ta otsustab selle lapse elu siis säästa.
And she drew him out of the water, and that's what his name means.
Võtab ta sealt veest välja ja see on, mis selle nime tähendus on.
He was drawn out.
Ta võeti välja.
And this little girl comes up and says, I know someone who can nurse this baby. Would you like me to help?
Tütar tuleb välja ja ütleb, ma tean, kes saab seda last imetada, kas ma toon ta siia.
And so she said yes, and she said, I will pay money to the person that nurses this baby until he's finished and he can eat solid food.
Nõustub ja ütleb, et ta maksab raha selle nimetajale nii kaua, kuni see laps hakkab oma jõul sööma.
And as maybe thousands of other male children were dying,
sellal kui teised poisslapsed,
this one special child is drawn out from the rest.
See üks eriline võetakse eemale.
And his life takes a different direction.
Ja tema elu võtab hoopis teise suuna.
And in the homes of the Israelites,
ja nende Iisraeliitide kodudes,
they would teach their children, even when they were very small,
õpetatakse seal lastele
about Abraham and Isaac and Jacob, the story of Noah, the story of Adam and Eve. They would teach these things.
Maalugu ja seda kõike neile õpetatuks.
And so he grew up, and then he, you know what, I'm taking too much time, so I'm going to start going faster.
Ma hakkan natukene kiiremini rääkima, et palju aega.
So he, as a man, he killed an Egyptian.
Seal ühel hetkel ta tapab ühe egiptlase Mooses.
To stop him from interfering with Hebrew people.
Et too ei seal sekkuks heebrea inimeste.
And then he realized that people knew what he had done,
ja ta mõistab,
and so he became a fugitive and ran away.
Inimesed sai teada, mis on juhtunud, mistõttu ta siis põgeneb
sellest riigist. He ran away into the wilderness very far away.
Ja pika tee põgeneb maha.
And in the next 40 years of his life,
ja oma järgmised 40 aastat oma
he
elust
was nobody.
Ei olnud ta ei keegi.
He became a shepherd.
Ta oli varjaseks.
He started a family, and no one heard about him in Egypt.
Ja Egiptuses ei kuulnud temast
He was raised as a prince of Pharaoh.
Ta kasvatati üles kui Vaaro prints.
But now he's no one.
Aga nüüd on ta ei keegi.
And one day as he was walking near the mountain that was nearby,
ühel päeval oli ta ühe mäe lähedal.
He saw a bush that was burning.
Nägi ta ühte põõsast, mis oli põlemas.
But it wasn't destroyed.
Aga see ei põlenud ära.
And it looked supernatural, so he said, I'm going to turn aside and see this great sight.
Ja see nägi ebatavaline välja, ta otsustas minna lähemale.
So he walked away from his sheep.
Ja siis oma karja juurest eemaldub.
And he encountered this burning bush and the voice of God.
Ja seal ta siis on silmitsi selle põlevas põõsaga ja Jumala häälega.
The text says that God spoke to him from the burning bush.
Tekst räägib, et Jumal räägib temaga läbi
And
selle
said,
põleva
Moses, called him by name.
Ja kutsub teda nimepidi Mooses.
He said, take the shoes off of your feet because the ground that you're standing on is holy. It's separated to me.
Öeldes, et Mooses, võta jalad siit ära, sest see maa, kus sa seisad, on püha maa.
And can you imagine?
Ja kujutage nüüd ette.
We don't know if he had ever had any experience like this in his life.
Ei tea, kas temal oli mingisuguseid säärasi kogemusi.
He's about 80 years old.
Ta on umbes 80 aasta vanune.
And so God says, I am calling you to be the deliverer of my people.
Jumal ütleb, ma kutsun sind, et sa oleksid vabastav.
I have heard the cries of the people that have come up to me.
Olles kuulnud nende selle rahva hädakisa.
And I am going to deliver them.
Ja ma vabastan nad.
And then he says, now you go and do it.
Ja ta ütleb, et mine ja tee seda.
And Moses said, but I can't do it.
Mooses ütleb, et ma ei saa seda teha.
I can't even speak very well.
Ma isegi ei kõnele eriti hästi.
And so through a series of signs.
Ja läbi mõningate tunnustähtede.
The text talks about how he told Moses, throw your staff down, and it turned into a snake.
Et Mooses pidi viskama oma saua maha ja see muutus
maoks. He said, pick it up by the tail. That's the most dangerous place to grab the snake.
Ja ütles, et võta selle bussi sabast.
And it became a staff again.
Muutus sauaks tagasi.
So these miracle signs convinced Moses, okay, I'm going to do what you say.
Nimed, mis Mooses silmal juhtuvad, siis veenvad teda, et minna.
So can you imagine? it maybe is his brother, his stepbrother, that is now the king or the Pharaoh of Egypt.
Nüüd tema kasuisa on see, kes siis on Maaros Egiptuses.
And Moses and his brother Aaron
Ja Mooses oma venna Aaroniga
come before Pharaoh and say, the Lord God
tulevad Aaro ette öeldes,
says, let my people go.
Jumal ütleb, et lase mu rahval minna.
And the Pharaoh said, I don't know this God. And he says the name, Jehovah or Yahweh in the text.
Ja Aaro ütleb, et ma ei tea isegi selle Jumala nime.
Let me back up. Moses said when he was at this burning bush, who shall I say is sending me?
Et enne seda veel Mooses, kui ta põleva kuusa juures küsib, et kes meid saatis.
Who are you?
Öeldes, kes sa oled.
And this voice says, I am that I am.
Ja see hääl vastab, ma olen.
And this name, Yahweh, in the text, is simply the verb, I am. And that was the name that God gave. In other words, I exist, and I am self-sufficient. I don't need anything else. I just exist. This is the name. So he says this name to Pharaoh, and Pharaoh says, I don't know this Yahweh. Why should I let these people go?
Ta seda siis räägib Vaarole ja Vaaro ei ole sellest siis veendunud.
And so Moses goes out and he says to God that has told him to do this, why have you sent me here? This is a big failure.
Mooses siis väljub ja ütleb Jumalale, et miks sa oled mind saatnud, midagi ei õnnestunud siin.
It was probably embarrassing for him.
Ilmselt tema jaoks
after all these years,
peale kõiki neid
he comes back to the palace where he grew up,
sinna paleesse, kust üles kasvas.
And he's rejected.
Ja teda siis ei võeta vastusele.
But God says, go back again.
Aga Jumal ütleb, mine tagasi uuesti.
And I'm going to judge the gods of Egypt.
Ja ma mõistan nende Egiptuse jumalate üle kohut.
And he says he said the first plague that he's going to do.
Esimene nuhtlus, mis
saab
aset leidma.
I'm going to turn the water of the Nile River to blood.
Muudan Niiluse jõe
He said, put your staff into this river.
Pane oma sau sinna jõkke.
Now the Egyptians worshipped many gods.
Egiptlased väga paljusid jumalaid.
And one of the main gods that they worshipped was the Nile River.
Ja üks nendest põhilistest, mida nad võistlesid, oli Niiluse jõgi.
Because this Nile delta that you can see on an atlas,
sest Niiluse delta, mida atlastel
and this long river that goes down, it's the longest river in the world.
Maailma pikimaid jõgesid.
And it has every spring a flood. And the water goes out from the river and it brings minerals into the fields.
Ja see vesi, mis seal voolab, ta toob sinna põldudele väärtuvat
materjali. And because of this process of every spring flooding and the minerals into the fields, the crops grow better.
Iga kord kevadel, kus vesi tõuseb, toob muda siis üle jõekalda ja hiljem, kui vesi taandub, on see viljakas.
The Egyptians worshipped the river and they wanted the river to help them to have a good crop.
Ja egiptlased seeläbi siis seda jõge ülistasid ja tahtsid, et Jumal tooks seda vilja.
This is also the river where the Hebrew children were drowned or eaten by crocodiles.
Ja see on samuti nüüd see jõgi, kuhu need Iisraeli siis vastsünninud pojad visati.
And so there's this sort of poetic justice that the first plague is the water turns to blood.
Nüüd see esimene nuhtlus ongi
for 7 days.
Sümboolne, et vesi muutub
there's no water.
7 päevaks.
There's blood in the lakes and in the cisterns, not only the river.
Vesi igal pool, on veri igal pool siis jões, järvedes ja mahutites.
And then come the frogs. I'm not going to go through all of these, but let me just point out this.
Ülevaatlikult seal on siis ka konnad.
The frogs were worshipped as a female deity, a female goddess.
Konnade puhul oli siis jumalannana tegu.
And if you saw some frogs, then it was a sign that there would be a good harvest. Maybe they were eating the bugs that would try to eat the crops.
Kui seal konni nähti, siis loeti seda märgiks, et tuleb hea kõikus, et võib-olla need konnad sõid putukaid ära.
But suddenly this plague, when the Pharaoh says, I still won't let the people go,
esimese nõutuse puhul Vaarao ei nõustu
Moses came back.
rahvast minema ja Mooses tuleb tagasi.
And there went frogs out from all over the place.
Ja tuli siis sinna tohutu hulk konnasid.
There were frogs in the beds.
Igal pool majades.
The text says there were frogs in the kneading bowls where they were making bread.
Oli igal leivakaussides konnasid igal pool.
People were going crazy. And these were the frogs that they had worshipped, but now they're just awful.
Inimesed olid siis seal mõistust kaotamas, et nad neid kondi üdistasid, aga nüüd on need kõik kohad on neid täis.
And then the next one is lice or gnats or mosquitoes, some kind of bug.
Sääsed või parmud või midagi taolist.
Moses and Aaron were instructed by God to throw the dust or the earth into the air. And out from it went these bugs.
Mooses ja Aaron pidid neile kästi, et nad võtaksid maast mulda ja
the Egyptians worshiped the earth because it gave the harvest.
Egiptlased ehitasid maad, kuna see andis nende vilja.
But now it's the source of this terrible thing.
Aga nüüd tuleb sealt maast välja.
And every one of these plagues represented a god of the Egyptians.
Ja kõik need nõutused, mis aset leidsid, nad sümboliseerivad mingisugust Egiptuse jumalat.
And if you're interested, I can show you a chart that I didn't have time to put onto the slides.
Ja kui on huvitav, siis võin pärast näidata ühte tabelit, mida mul ei olnud aega.
You've heard probably of the Egyptian sun god Ra,
aga ilmselt teate Egiptuse päiksejumalat Ra.
This was the most powerful of the Egyptian gods.
See oli nende jumalatest siis kõige esimene.
And at this point, there were 3 days of darkness.
Oli 3 päeva pimedust.
The text says it was so dark you couldn't really even see your hand in front of your face.
Sedavõrd pime on tekstis kirjas, et ei näinud isegi oma kätt, mis oli näost näo juures.
And it was as if the Hebrews God was demonstrating these gods of Egypt have no power.
See oli justkui demonstreerimas, et see Heebra jumal, tal on täielik võim nende Egiptuse jumalate.
And this is going to be a continual theme throughout the books of the Old Testament.
Ja et saab see olema niisugune jätkuv teema läbi terve
Where
Testamendi raamatu.
this God, Yahweh, says, who are these other gods? They're just wood and stone. They can't hear, they can't see.
Kus see Jumal Jahve justkui ütleb, et siin on need jumalad, kes on tehtud puust ja kivist, kes ei kuule ega näe.
And finally the last one.
Ja lõpuks kõige viimane.
The death of the firstborn.
Esmasündinute suremine.
Now, this was an awful plague.
See oli hirmutav nuhtlus.
Because it affected all of the Egyptians.
Sest see tabas siis kogu Egiptust.
The firstborn of the animals and also of the families.
Esmasündinu nii perekondades kui ka loomade hulgas.
The text says that after this happened,
peale selle juhtumist
there arose such a cry throughout the whole land of Egypt as mothers and fathers were discovering that their firstborn was dead
tõusis tohutu
in
elamkisa,
many houses, every house.
lapsevanemad avastasid nende esmasündinu surma.
That there was never a sound like it that anyone had ever heard.
Et oli niisugune kisa, mida keegi kunagi
And in this part of the world, when people were grieving, they would cry very loudly anyway.
Ja selles maailma nurgas siis inimesed teinuks väga suurt lärmi.
But it even affected the palace.
Aga see isegi puudutas paleed.
This is the ultimate test.
See on nüüd see kõige suurem katsumus.
Because every time Pharaoh had said, I still will not let the people go.
Sest kõigi eelnevate puhul oli Vaaro keeldunud
The text says that his heart was hard.
Et tema süda oli kõva.
And he would promise something when it was very terrible, and then when the plague went away, he would say, no, I won't do it. And he would take back his word.
Kui see olukord oli väga halb, aga kui see natuke kergendust kergemaks muutus, siis ta taandus oma lubasest.
The Egyptians worshipped Pharaoh as God.
Nüüd egiptlased siis ülistavad
And that
Vaarot kui
means
jumalat.
that his son was a God.
Ja tema poeg on
He would be the next Pharaoh, the next God.
järgmine Vaaro, järgmine jumal.
And his own son also died.
Tema enda poeg ka sureb.
This meant none of these gods had any power over this Yahweh.
Näitas, et nendel jumalatel ei mingit võimu selle Jahve üle.
He had said, I don't know, Yahweh, why should I let the people go?
ta ennem ütles, et ma ei tunne Jahvet, miks ma peaksin
But through this series of events, he became very familiar with this God.
aga läbi nende sündmuste ta saab igati tuttavaks.
But before I go on, Moses was told by God to put blood of a lamb over the doorposts and the lintel of each Hebrew house.
aga Jumal käsib, et kõikide heebrealaste majadele pandaks siis välisukse viitadele talleverd.
And this was going to be a sign
ja see sai olema märgiks,
to what the text calls the death angel.
mida siis need tekstid nimetavad
And when
surmaingliks.
he sees the blood, the
kui
text
too
says,
näeb seda verd,
he will pass over that house
siis ta
and he won't kill the firstborn.
liigub mööda sellest
And
majast
so
ja ei tapa.
from then on, because of that, it's called the Passover.
ja sellest saab ka paasapüha
And this Passover was a symbol
ja see paasapüha oli sümboliks
of the New Testament death of Jesus Christ,
Uues Testamendis Jeesuse surma,
who was spoken of as the Lamb of God,
kellest ka räägiti kui Jumala talle,
slain
kes tapeti,
to take away the sins of the world.
et viia ära maailma pask.
So the same symbol, the Lamb is killed
et tal tapetakse,
so that someone that's covered by the Lamb's blood is not killed
et selleks
or not judged.
see, kes on talle verega kaetud, et tema üle ei mõistetaks.
And this becomes a very powerful, this is the most often spoke of feast of the Jews in the New Testament.
ja Uues Testamendis on see kõige enam kajastamist leidev püha.
And I'm taking too much time again, but I just want to tell so many details. They were instructed to have their feast or their supper with this lamb's meat.
ja seal korralduses oli, et nad söönuks seda paasa söömaaega selle
With their coat on and their shoes on and their walking staff in their hand.
oma reisiriiete jalatsite ja oma siis jalutuskepiga.
As if to say, you are definitely leaving Egypt.
märgiks, et te olete kindlasti Egiptusest
And that's exactly what happened.
ja täpselt nii ka oli.
That night they left Egypt.
sellel ööl nad
3 million people,
3 miljonit
at
inimest
least.
vähemalt.
Perhaps twice that or 5 million, we don't
võib-olla
know.
kahekordselt, võib-olla natuke vähem, me ei täpselt ei tea.
And they didn't go empty-handed.
ja nad ei läinud tühjade kätega.
They were instructed to borrow gold and silver and nice clothes from the Egyptians.
et nad pidanuks ennem laenama kulda ja riideid igasugu.
And the Egyptians were afraid of them. Can you imagine?
oli,
So they said, yeah, take it, go.
kartsid neid ja andsid ja ütlesid, et nad läheksid.
And this was a small price to pay for their slavery for so much time.
ja see oli väike hind selle eest, mis nad kõik olid pikki aastaid seal.
They left Egypt.
Nad lahkusid Egiptusest.
And I'll just go through this quickly.
ja ma kiirelt läbin selle koha.
But the most famous incident that happened during this journey
kõige tuntum juhtum, mis aset leiab,
came at the Red Sea.
oli Punase mere juures.
Now, people don't know exactly where they crossed.
inimesed täpselt ei tea, kus nad läbi käisid.
Many maps will show somewhere here.
paljud kaardid näitavad kusagil seal.
But actually, in the last, I don't know, maybe 40 years, I'm not exactly sure of the time frame.
aga viimase 40 aasta jooksul umbkaudu
There have been divers in this part of the Red Sea.
on sukelduvad käinud seal kohas.
I don't. It's here or here. It's called. It's this beach. It comes out.
üks rannanukk, mis välja ulatub.
And there's a very narrow passageway between mountains or
Ja
hills, very steep slopes.
kahe kalda poolel on lähestikku mäed.
And the people came. Perhaps it was here because they've sent divers and they found things that look like chariot wheels from Egypt.
on seal sukelduvalt käinud, kes on leidnud objekte, mis meenutavad kui kaarikud.
I have too much to say in too little time, so you can ask me more after.
väga palju öelda, aga vähe aega on.
But the Pharaoh came to himself maybe the next day or a couple of days later and he became very angry.
Päev või paar hiljem siis toimub sellest
And he
esmasest.
sent his army to go and capture these slaves that had gone away.
Ja saadab siis oma armeed need orjad taas
And
siis
he wanted to destroy Moses probably.
ja tõenäoliselt tahtis Mooses ära
And
tappa.
they chased him this whole way.
Nad siis
somewhere.
ajavad seal neid taga.
And perhaps here they came upon them.
Nad siis jõudsid järgi.
But the text says that
Teksti järgi.
God told Moses, don't be afraid, stretch out your rod
Ütleb
over
Jumal
the sea.
Moosesele, et ära karda, aga siruta oma sau mere poole.
And when he did,
Ja kui ta seda tegi,
the sea parted.
siis meri lahknes.
Now, if it was here,
Ja kui see oli kusagil seal,
the water is shallow,
Siis,
relatively shallow there.
see vee sügavus on
There's
üsna
like
madal
a land bridge under the water.
ja on niisugune loomulik sild, mis muutub.
And then the water gets very deep here and very deep on the other side as
Ja
well.
mõlemal pool siis vesi järsult hakkab
There was a
sügavama.
great wind, the text says, all night long, and it pushed the water back.
Teksti järgi oli kogu
And
öö
it
väga
dried.
tugev tuul, mis siis seda vett eemale lükkas.
And it dried the bed of the sea.
Mis siis selles
And the text said that they walked through the sea on dry ground.
Ja kirja järgi nad ületasid selle kuivade jalgadega.
Now, I don't know about you, but if I was the Pharaoh and I saw that,
Ma ei tea, kuidas sina mõtled, aga kui ma oleks Vaarao,
I would say, that's enough, they can just go.
näitab sellest, nad võivad minna.
What do you think? But you know what he did?
Mida tema
He
teeb?
sent his troops into the sea after
Ta
them.
laseb oma armeel ka sealt samast kohast edasi minna.
The text says that their wheels began coming off.
Ja teksti järgi hakkab nende ratastel seal rattad maha tulema.
And then when the Israelites were on the other side,
Kinni kiiluma.
Moses stretched out the rod again, and the sea came back.
Kui Iisraeli lapsed olid siis jõudnud üle, siis laseb Mooses
And it
uuesti
covered
sirutada oma
this
sauga,
entire mighty army.
siis mille peale vesi selle armee peale.
And the people were free from slavery.
Ja need inimesed olid siis nüüd
And of
vabad
course they celebrated that.
orjusest ja nad seda tähistasid ka.
And in the New Testament, this
Uues
becomes
testamendis sellest saab
a symbol of Christian baptism.
sümbool kristlikuks kristmiseks.
So there are all of these different trains that come to the New Testament, and it's just this amazing grand picture.
Et on kõik need väiksed detailid, mis siis uues testamendis saavad selleks suureks pildiks.
They left slavery and they left the power of that slavery behind in the water.
Nad lahkusid sellest orjusest ja jätsid selle orjuse ikke siis sinna vette maha.
And in the New Testament, the idea is they leave the slavery of sin and the power of that sin behind.
Uue testamendi idee on siis see, et Kristus jätta maha selle patuorjus.
So there's this amazing agreement between the text.
Et seal on siis see niisugune kokkulangemine.
And then they come to these different places. You can read about them.
Sealt siis nad tulevad läbi erinevate asukohtade.
They go through the wilderness and they're complaining because they don't have food.
Ja on seal hädas, et neil ei ole toitu.
And God says to Moses, there's going to be food in the evening.
Et saab olema toitu õhtusel ajal.
And there were these millions of quail, or kind of bird that
Ja
came.
oli seal neid suur hulk
And
neid
the people had meat in the middle of the desert.
keset kõrbe, mida said inimesed süüa.
And then for about 40 years,
Ja umbes 40 aasta jooksul
every morning,
iga
the
hommik
text says that there would be something on the ground like dew.
on miski kastesarnane,
And it tasted like honey,
mis maitses nagu
wafers.
mesi,
And the people would gather it in the morning,
mida inimesed kogunud
and then in the sun, the hot sun would melt it, it would disappear.
ja kuum päike siis selle hiljem ära sulatab.
And you can read about all of this. But they came back to this mountain of Sinai.
Aga nad tulevad sinna Siinai mäe.
And it was the same place where Moses had this experience with God.
Ja see oli seesama koht, kus Mooses oli Jumalat kohanud.
And the text says that God spoke and the people heard his voice and were afraid.
Ja seal on kirjas, et Jumal rääkis nende inimestega ja nad kuulsid ja nad kartsid seda.
So they said to Moses, you go and talk to him and come back and tell us.
Ütlesid Moosesele, et mine sina ja räägi.
And there's so much that can be said, but he comes back with the 10 Commandments.
aga sealt ta tuleb tagasi nende 10 käsuga.
And this is the foundation of Western law.
Ja see on siis lääne seadusandluse aluseks.
And probably many of you can say some of the 10 Commandments just because of culture.
Ilmselt teiegi teate vähemalt mõningaid.
And these were the laws of living.
Ja see oli selleks seaduseks seal.
It was about their relationship with God and their relationship with one another.
Et see oli seaduseks nii nende suhtele Jumalaga kui ka
Kill,
nende suhtele
steal,
omavahel.
and
Ära tappa ja ära varasta ja
oops, and then they came to the edge of this land that God had promised to Abraham and Isaac and
Jacob.
Jacob.
Siis jõuad selle maa piirimaile, millest Jumal on rääkinud Abrahamile ja
And
Isakile
they
ja
sent in
Jaakobile.
12 spies, one from each of the tribes.
Ja nad saadavad siis 12 maakuulajat või spiooni
Remember,
igast sellest
yeah,
siis
one from each
suguarust
family.
siis.
And remember, Israel had 12 sons, so each one of these was a tribe.
Et Jaakobil Iisraelil oli 12 poega, et igaüks nendest sai siis selleks
And the 12 came back and they said, it's a good land.
ja nad tulevad tagasi ja ütlevad, see on
They
hea maa.
said, look at the size of this fruit that we're bringing back.
Ja vaadake selle vilja, mida me tagasi toome.
But they said that there are giants
Aga nad ütlevad, seal on hiiglasi
and there are mighty cities
ja seal on tugevad linnad.
and we cannot take this land.
Ja me ei suuda mingil juhul seda maad
We,
vallutada.
the text says that they said, we were like grasshoppers in their sight and in our own sight.
Et nad kirjeldavad, et nad justkui tundsid ennast kui rohutirtsudena nende silma all.
But two of the spies said, we can do this.
Aga kaks nendest spioonidest ütlevad,
And because of the 10, the whole millions of people of Israel said, we don't want to do it.
Nüüd selle 10 sõna tõttu, mida need nood 10 ütlesid,
And
rahvas ei taha
40
seda.
years of wandering in the wilderness began as judgment by their God.
40 aastat seda kõrges rängamist siis leiab aset kohtumõistmisena.
And finally,
Lõpuks siis.
so here are the 10 Commandments. I spoke about this.
10 käsku, millest ma natuke rääkisin.
And more could be said about this.
No,
But
so
this is
that's
the
the
time,
rohkem
this is the beginning of the time period of the law.
See on siis seaduse ajajärgu alguseks.
So during this time, while they're wandering, they have this law that God gives to Moses.
Sellel ajal, kui nad seal ringi rändlevad, annab Jumal siis Moosesele need seadused.
And some of the laws have to do with ceremony.
Et mõned ka nendest on siis sellised tseremoniaalsed.
Some of the laws have to do with morality.
Osad nendest on moraaliga seotud.
And the greatest commandment
Suurimad käsud seal,
that in the New Testament Jesus speaks about
millest ka Uues Testamendis Jeesus kõneleb,
is from the 5th book of Moses, chapter 6.
pärit siis 5. Moosese raamatust,
And this text here, it says, teach your children
mis ütlevad, õpetage oma lastele,
that there is one God.
et on üks Jumal.
And this was, I've said before, revolutionary because the other nations served many
Ja
gods.
see oli täiesti uuenduslik, kuna teistel ümberkaudsetel rahvastel oli jumalaid väga suurel arvul.
But they said, we have one God,
Nemad ütlesid, meil on üks ainus.
and you shall love the Lord your God
Ja sa armasta oma Jumalat
with all of your heart.
kogu oma südamega.
Now, let me just say this. In the Estonian Bible,
Eestikeelses piiblis
they use the name that was in the original text.
nad kasutavad neid nimesid, mis on originaaltekstis.
But in many other translations, for example in English,
Paljudes teistes tõlgetes, näiteks inglise keeles,
this very famous verse, for example,
see tuntud kirjakoht,
will say, worship the Lord.
Ülistage isandat,
And Lord is in all capital letters because it represents what is in your Estonian Bible.
Ja see sõna isand või issand on siis läbivad suure tähtedega,
Yahweh,
mis on eestikeelses
or
piiblis
I guess Jehovah in the Estonian.
siis Jehova vanemas tõlkes eesti keeles.
But in, we'll talk about this in another lesson.
Ja ka mõnest teises õpetüütis.
But let me just say that after many years, and I spoke of the Babylonian captivity.
Ma rääkisin Paabeli vangistusest.
We'll get to that in the history.
Selleni
It's
me
very
jõuame.
interesting.
see on huvitav koht.
The people were so afraid to break these laws.
Inimesed kartsid sedavõrd neid seadusi rikkuda.
Then one of the things that they said
Et üks asi, mis nad ütlevad,
was, don't even say the name of God.
Isegi öelge välja Jumala nime.
Because we're not sure if this text means don't say it in a bad way or just don't say it at all. So let's just be more careful.
Me ei ole selles tekstis kindel, kas ütleb, et ärge öelge halval toonil või ärge öelge üldse.
That's for another time. Let me just finish today.
Ja lõpetuseks.
There was a plan for how they should camp while they were traveling.
Ja sellal, kui nad reisisid, siis oli neil niisugune plaan või ülesehitus.
And the text says that God told Moses how to build a tabernacle or a place of worship.
Ja Moosesele ütles Jumal, kuidas ehitada selle ülistuskoha.
And every tent, its opening faced toward this place of worship.
Ja iga telki uks pidi siis olema selle koguduse telgi poole.
And they would see the place of worship
ja nad näinuks seda
at the end of the day before they went to bed and in the morning when they came out.
Iga kord, kui nad teinuks siis oma telgi lahti hommikul, et minna välja või õhtul, et minna sisse.
And this cloud here,
ja see pilv seal,
the text says that
teksti järgi,
as they traveled at night, they would see God's presence as a visible, physical sign, as a pillar of fire.
Öösel nad näinuks Jumala siis kohaolu tulesambana.
And by day as a pillar of cloud.
Ja päeval siis kui pilvesammas.
So this the presence of God would go and they would follow.
Ja kui see liikunuks, siis nad oleksid selle järginud.
And again, I'm going to run out of time before I get to the some of the best part.
Ja ajaga natuke napib, aga
so I'm going to pick this up again next week, but let me give you a preview.
Järgmisel nädalal ma siis jätkan, aga ma annan väikse ülevaate.
This is the tabernacle plan.
See on siis püha koht või koguduse telk.
Here was the altar of sacrifice.
See oli see ohvrialtar.
The people would bring an offering for their sins.
Kuhu siis inimesed toonuks ohverduse oma pattude tõttu.
For example, if they accidentally broke one of these laws,
näiteks kui nad kogemata
then they were supposed to bring the sacrifice.
Rikkusid siis reeglite järgi nad pidid tooma.
And the priest would offer it on this altar as a burnt offering.
Siis ohverdanuks selle seal altaril ja põletanuks.
Here is the water where the priest would wash.
Seal oli see veeanum, kus preester käsi pesi.
And then he would enter into the holy place behind this screen.
Sisenenud pühasse paika selle riide taga.
Yeah. Here was a golden candlestick.
Seal oli kuldne siis küünlaus.
An altar of incense.
Ja siis suitsurõhna või
I guess I can show you.
Suitsutusaltar siis.
And then there was a table of bread.
Ja leibalaud oli seal.
And then behind this veil
ja selle kardina taga
was the Holy of Holies.
Oli kõige püham paik.
And this was where the Ark of the Covenant was located.
Seal oli kuhu see seaduse laegas.
Inside were the 10 Commandments.
Mille sees oli siis need 10 käsku.
And it was all made of gold,
overlaid
wood with gold.
Siis puu, mis oli kullaga kaetud üle.
And so I'll speak more about this next week, but let me just show you
järgmine nädal räägin, aga näitan veel.
That in the New Testament, the parallel is given between the sacrifice of Jesus Christ,
on siis antud, et Jeesuse ohverdamisest,
the death, the burial, and the resurrection,
surm, matmine ja ülestõus.
It's given by the offering.
Ja seal Vana Testamendiga paralleelina
the death of a lamb,
ohver, mis oli siis näiteks talle ohver,
the washing in the water,
siis pesemine vees,
and the Holy of Holies,
ja siis see kõige püham paik,
where the covering of the blood of the lamb was sprinkled onto this it was called the mercy seat, the top of this ark.
Mille peale selle kaane peale siis seda talle verd visendati.
So we'll speak again about it next week.
Sellest räägime järgmine nädal.
Please invite someone to come with you.
Kutsuge keegi kaasa.
But thank you for coming.
Aga aitäh, et tulite.
And I hope it's been interesting for you.
Ja loodan, et see oli huvitav.
Thank you very much for coming.
Tänan kõigile.